Welcome to the Throne of Wealth, the podcast that empowers you to reign over your financial future. Each episode brings you tax strategies, wealth building insights, and stories from inspiring entrepreneurs. The Throne of Wealth is brought to you by King of Kings accounting firm, where financial challenges become opportunities for growth. Let's get into it.
Welcome to today's podcast. We have a special guest, Keren Barrios, an attorney with more than 10 years of experience serving our community as an entrepreneur and representing each individual in the legal field. Keren, welcome.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
Good. It's so great to have you here today. I can't wait for you to tell your story to the audience and those, moments of success that you have had in your career and, the ups and downs of business.
Yes, it's real. So I'm glad to be here. So thank you for having me. Thank you for sharing a little bit of my background, my story with others who are listening, and hopefully being of inspiration to others.
So tell us a little bit, where does the idea of being an attorney come from?
Well, Karen, so it comes from many years ago. So I have a sad story, but then it ended up being a good story. So I was actually kidnapped when I was 10 for 13 days in Guatemala City, where I actually had to go to trial to go and, testify against the people that did that. And once I went to trial, at that moment when the solicitor took on my case, I made the decision to do the same for others. And I made, the commitment, the promise to myself that I was going to become a lawyer and help those the best that I could. And I've been doing it, like you said, for about almost 11 years now. It's crazy. Wow. But yeah, that passion, from something bad, my passion grew to help others.
And where did your firm started?
Well, my firm started in Gwinnett County in downtown Lawrenceville. So, of course, many don't know me, the ones that are going to be listening to this podcast, but I ended up marrying my partner in a good way. We got married first and then opened the law firm, and then it was just me and him, literally in one office. We had one phone, one desk. And from that, we grew it to about 40 employees now. We have 2 offices, one in Gwinnett County, Duluth area, and one in Augusta, Georgia. And so, I do believe that everything that you do with passion grows because you're doing it right. And so, yeah, that's how it started.
And tell us a little bit about the ups and downs of business. Because people think that, it's kind of like an overnight success. Let me just start this, and I should have these results by the next quarter or so. But things aren't that easy.
No, I mean, I think being a business owner and also having a profession. So, for example, even you guys, right? Like you do something, but you're also running a business is tough because you're doing 2 jobs at the same time. And I think being an attorney and being a business owner, it's a pretty tough job to do both at the same time. But I think, building a business is not for everyone. I do believe that. I do believe there are people that enjoy being an employee, and they do such a good job. And we need that in this society, right? Yeah. We need people that they're okay with that. And then you have the entrepreneurs, the crazy ones that are willing to take all the responsibility, be out in and out. There's no holidays. There's no sick time, right? If you're the owner, you're called to be there 24/7 in a way. But I think true entrepreneurs enjoy that. I feel like I'm that type of person that during vacations, I'm thinking of better ways to serve people or finding ways to market. And I think those are just people who are wired that way. But being an entrepreneur is tough. I mean, I'm not going to come here and say it's easy, it's great. You got to be adaptable. You got to have a very strong mindset of when things get tough, right? And it's like you said, people see the success, but they don't see all the hard work that you have to do in order to get there, and also how adaptable you have to be. I mean, yeah, you make this plan at the beginning of the year and then Q2 comes and you're not even halfway there and you're trying to figure out why, but then you're also being an attorney. So, you know, it's a lot of work, but I think, like I said, I think if you're really called to be an entrepreneur, you have that mindset and that spirit, you also enjoy it. So, you know.
So tell us about one case that, you know, kind of like has given you that aha moment and say, you know, this is why I'm a lawyer. I know you probably have many stories, but tell us a little bit, even you know, one that impacted you.
Yeah, so there's one that really impacted me. So I also serve as the legal representative for the Guatemalan consulate here in Atlanta. I'm from Guatemala myself. So, you know, it was this case where I had just started my contract with them, and then an adjuster called and said, hey, we're closing this claim. No one's, you know, representing anybody, like the benefits for anybody. We're going to close the file pretty much. And I said, hold on, give me a few more days. I'm going to research. We ended up researching that the person who passed away, so he passed away here, unfortunately in a really horrible accident, had a daughter and a spouse that he left behind. And they lived in a remote area in Guatemala. I mean, it was so hard to even find their information, their phone number. And we were able to get him on the phone and you know, confirm everything. And, you know, I told him, are you okay with me representing you for a claim? Imagine, these people has never met me. They were like, is this real? Is this a scam? And I said, look, I'm here to help you out. I want to represent, you know, whatever benefit we can get from you guys. So we ended up taking the case. I ended up calling the adjuster back and said, no, there's a wife and a child. She got really upset. I said, no, but we're going to move forward with, you know, doing a claim. So we did a claim, Karen, and we ended up getting like a multi-million-dollar figure for this lady who lived in Guatemala with, her house was made out of dirt. And when I called her and I said, hey, we won your case, I said, what would you be happy with if I told you I got this amount? He said, she said, if you give me $5,000, that'd be amazing for me. And when I told her the settlement amount, that lady was like, you have no idea. Because the little girl set up for life. So when she's 18, she's going to get a huge amount for herself. Her whole education's paid for. She's now able to do whatever she wants. And and she was 9, right when I was kidnapped too. And for me, that case, even she's like, when you come to Guatemala, please call me. I'll do anything for you. But that case changed my life because, you know, I think that little girl is going to remember me for the rest of her life, and hopefully she can pay it forward somebody else. But that case truly changed my life.
Wow, that's a story that has impacted their family, impacted you, the people surround them. It's going to change their life completely. I mean, it's unfortunate the tragic situation that brought into this, but, you know, seeing the opportunity, looking at ways to help people, you know, what do you do to stay, I think I would say maybe stay passionate, right? Stay focused.
Stay focused and happy.
Satisfied with what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all humans, right? So emotions are real, and I think emotions can be deceiving. And I think emotions, if you don't control them, can actually affect you in a negative way. But I think whenever you go through tough times, because you will, especially if you're an entrepreneur, right, in a business, you got to remember the why you do it. Like, go back to, why did I even started this? Why do I get up in the morning and do this? And you will find your passion, because there is a reason why we all started what we do. And when those moments come of, like, for example, that case, and like you said, I have like maybe 4 or 5, 6 cases that have really changed my life. I remember those things. I'm like, man, we were able to do this for this person. So you got to remember the why you do things in order for those hard moments, you know, to be tolerable enough to keep moving. And so, and I always say, what doesn't kill us make us stronger, you know, and I think that's just been kind of my motto in life. Like, if it hasn't killed me, I'm still stronger. I'm learning, you know, and we're all learning. I learned this from a coach that told me, Karen, you're never losing, right? You're always learning. And so whenever I go through tough times, you want to be like, oh man, I should have done this. I should have whatever, but you learn. So at the end of the day, when things get tough, I always think of that mindset of I'm learning, I'm getting better. I'm going to get better after this. And that helps. That helps.
Oh my God, that's so powerful because, I was just going through some thoughts yesterday and I was telling one of the clients, I'm like, sometimes you just sit down and you just don't know if to go forward or stay where you at or just like, because there's no option of going back, but it's just like there's no, if you don't see the path or the, where you're going, or if you lose that focus or, the target where you're supposed to go, it's like, where do I go? Yeah. And so he was doing a swap analysis for a marketing that he's having issues. And so I was trying to have him or get into him to, have an aha moment, right? Don't look at those as threats. So many people said, these are closing doors. And I'm like, look at that as an opportunities. What are the training opportunities that you have when you're doing this analysis? And he was like, well, but I have all of these negatives. I said, yes, but what positives can come out of those negatives? And it just, now I learned something new and just like, training opportunities.
Yes, it's always an opportunity. We don't have challenges, we have opportunities. And so I would say, especially being a business owner, you got to have a very positive mindset. I think all of business owners who are at a certain level understand the mindset's everything. How you show up, how you do things, how do people view you as a leader too, and you have such a big impact that you understand that if you're okay mindset wise, everything will turn out okay. And you, like you said, vision is super important, like to know your goals, your numbers, right? Then we're going to practical ways. But what is that vision? What is that goal that I'm trying to get at? And like you said, I think in business, sometimes it's okay to stay there, but you got to get better, right? Like if I'm not going to grow as much this year, what can I focus on and improving? Is it better training? Is it better, process, procedure? So it's all about, like you said, opportunities to get better.
What will be 2 things or 3 things that you will say that are very important for an entrepreneur to put into practice or not lose focus of?
I think, obviously I have a huge passion, right? Like in the sense of why I do what I do. And I think that's probably my number one. You have to have a passion for what you're doing because it just transcends everything. Like people around you will feel it. I mean, even my team members are like, oh, I love working with you because you really care about people, right? And I think it's my passion that translate into everything I do. So a passion, even if it's for growing businesses, I'm not saying you have to have this like emotional passion about it. It could be anything as like growing a business or restructuring, but you have to have that wanting and that, desire. And when you wake up, you're excited to go to work. So I feel like entrepreneurs cannot lose that because once you lose that, it's really tough to build it because you're unhappy or frustrated. You hate it pretty much. That's number one. I think 2, I said it. I think it's mindset, Karen. I think, emotions, like I said, are very deceiving. So if you're very influenced by your emotions, you're going to get sidetracked a lot. And like you said, there's so many competition in all the businesses we do. There's so much going on outside that if we start focusing on all these negative factors, we're never going to achieve what we want. So you got to have that mindset of, I can do this. You have to have that belief in yourself that you can do this. And I think number 3, Karen, is the vision. I think passion, mindset, and vision are what truly gets an entrepreneur through those really tough times that we were talking about. And I think the vision, Jorge and I are really big about every year we set apart weeks to work on that next year of what we're going to do. What are the things that we want to accomplish? What are the months that we break about even by like weeks? And so you got to take the time to do that in order to know your vision. And it starts from the practical things of the everyday of the business.
That's you said something very, very important that I feel like majority of people take or probably don't know about it, but take for granted. Because a lot of the entrepreneurs that have been in business for so long and they have, 7, 8-figure business, sometimes they lose track of this, but when you're breaking down the vision into pieces, right? So you paint the big picture, and then you come back and say, okay, quarter 1 is gonna look like this, quarter 2 is gonna look like this, quarter 3, and so on, and you start breaking it down into months and weeks, and then those weeks become days, and then those days become to-dos and tasks and KPIs and all of that.
Yep.
Why do you think that is so important?
Because that is what's going to get you to that bigger picture. I mean, it's funny because like Jorge and I have taken a lot of like coaching and personality tests, and we figured out there are people who are wired to see the bigger picture, and there are people that are wired to do the small day-to-day task, and they're really good at it. So I know my weaknesses. I'm more of the bigger picture kind of person, but if you don't have somebody next to you or in your team that can help you execute that bigger picture into those pieces, you're not going to get there. You're not going to get to your goal. Yeah, you want 10 million, you want 20 million, but then you don't have a day-to-day plan to get to those 10, 20 million. So yeah, you definitely need that.
How would someone be able to build something, if we were to talk about something simple? Let's say I want to lose 20 pounds because, I don't want to say I want to make $20 million because it's going to be harder to explain, but I want to lose 20 pounds in the next 6 months. How you break down? That's my big picture.
Yes.
Big mindset, right? 20 pounds. Yes. So many sizes down. But what would I need to do in a day-to-day to kind of accomplish that? How will you break that down?
I mean, you have to start even with like your grocery shopping, right? Like it's crazy. You got to start from like the 0 to the 100 in the sense of like, what do you need to go to do grocery shopping? Do you need a meal plan? Do you need to take time in your weekend to meal plan in order to have good meals during the week? What times are you going to go work out? Put that in your calendar. That's one thing I've learned. Everything should be in your calendar as an entrepreneur, because if it's not on there, it doesn't happen, right? So even if you need to have meetings with your team quarterly, weekly, put that in your calendar, because that's what really builds consistency to be able to reach those goals. So you got to start breaking the daily by minute kind of habits, especially in a business. Like you said, like, how many calls are we getting daily? How many of those calls are turning into clients, right? Do we need to fix marketing for that? And so it's all tied to the day-to-day and how we do things in our businesses in order to reach those goals.
Yeah, it's amazing how much, we don't appreciate of the day. And sometimes we just look at the clock and it's just like, oh, it's 1 p.m. or it's 2 p.m. But what have you accomplished by that time, right?
Yeah.
It's like half of your day is gone. And then, time is that one thing that I always say that you can't rewind and
the
go
most
back
valuable thing we have. Yes.
You can't go back to it. So if there will be an aha moment in your life when you review it or analyze your business and say, man, if I would have known this, I would have made different decisions, what would that be?
Like I said, Karen, I live a lifestyle that nothing, because everything that I've gone through this whole 10 years, I've learned from it, right? Like I'm where I need to be because of all the decisions I've made, good or bad. I always tell my kids, there's no such thing as a bad decision. They're just, you make them and then there's consequences for them. I mean, but I think nothing, I think everything that's happened during this 11 years of where I'm at has made me who I am, like the type of person I am, the type of attorney I am, the type of leader, the type of entrepreneur. And I always see life as I'm always improving. So whatever's rest, yes, I'm all about improving. I'm all about getting better. I'm all about not repeating the stuff that I did that wasn't as good, right? But I think, I think it's been such a good journey. I've enjoyed working with my spouse, which is weird to say. I know people will be like, you're crazy. How can you work with your husband and live with him and have kids with him? But I've enjoyed so much working with him that, what better partner to have than your spouse, right?
Yep.
But and poor him, he's probably like, I have no way out in life and in business, but it's been such a good journey. And I think we've been able to impact and help so many people through it. I mean, that I just, I don't regret anything. Could I have done better? Yes. Early on, Jorge and I got into coaching really early. That I think was probably one of the best decisions we've done, learning from others who've done it. And I think, as an entrepreneur, you got to be very, what's it called? I guess vulnerable and humble enough to understand that there's people who are ahead of you that you can learn from, and there's people that you can teach, right? I'm always big about how can I pay it forward. But yeah, I think coaching's one, learning from others, surrounding yourself with individuals that think like you is huge. And those are things that Jorge and I have always tried to do. And I you know me from a long time ago, I'm always trying to find people that are like that I'm like, yeah, you can do this, you can do that. And thinking and being positive and being around people like that's huge.
That's great. That's great. So tell us a little bit, if people want to hear, what kind of law do you practice, where to find you, and where to find the firm, the locations. I know you mentioned Duluth, but your website.
Yeah, so it's Barrios Vergües, and it's spelled a little different, like, I guess not different, Vergües a little harder, but it's Barrios Vergües. It's Barrios, V as in Victor, IRGUEZ.com. We're big on social media, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us as Barrios Vergües. And my office, like I said, the one close to here, it's in Duluth. It's in Satellite Boulevard, right in front of Gas South. And the type of law we practice is mainly, I don't want to say accidents, but anything that has to do with negligence, right? Because at this point, unfortunately, there's wrongful deaths because of negligence. There is slip and falls because of negligence. So we do all the type of accidents, and of course car accidents, and we also do immigration. So those are the two main things that Jorge and I do. So we don't do anything else but that. And yeah, there's another podcast coming probably soon about knowing your rights, because then it would take forever, but those are the main things we focus on.
So we're gonna invite you for the next phase to talk about.
I can talk forever, so you could,
so that you can teach us more about knowing about your rights, and I really would love for our community to know about that and how to protect themselves when something happens, right? Because like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be an accident.
Correct.
An unfortunate situation could be there in a public place.
Yeah.
A shooting can take place.
Yes.
Not if somebody is obviously maybe entitled to a compensation for whatever.
I think in this type of law, a lot of our people, like community, don't know their rights. Like they just truly don't even know there's a case until they speak with somebody that's handled them. And so, like you say, shootings are really big in our community. Karen, we were able to help. I'll close the podcast with this. There is one case we were able to help a very young man. I think he was probably 17 years old. They were outside this apartments they were celebrating a birthday party. There's a drive-by shooting in the apartments. They killed the best friend, and he's shot pretty much in a really bad way. I think all his intestines were destroyed. He had to get like multiple surgeries. The aunt that was in charge of him here in the U.S., because his parents were in his home country, was my immigration client back in the day. And she remembered me, called me. She's like, I don't even know what to do. She was calling me because of the investigation. And soon after that, we were able to do a lawsuit against the apartment complex because shootings had happened there prior and they hadn't done nothing about it. And we were able to get him a U visa. Wow. So he ended up, it's horrible what he went through, but out of something negative, we were able to get something positive. He got a U visa, meaning he's going to have a residency. He's going to have a green card soon. And then after that, we were able to get him compensated through his pain and suffering, paid all his medical bills, and still on top of that, a pretty great settlement for his case. So a lot of people don't know, and I love to educate people and knowing their rights and what they can do in the situations.
So there'll be a continuance after this. Before I let you go, one thing that you could say about a hot moment of your relationship with us or with me and Juan or with the firm.
Okay. No, I think what I can say about Karen is that she's a big visionary, and I really enjoy talking to her because we kind of think alike. Where I think Juan and Jorge are very similar. They're very like, hold on, let's slow down and figure it out, right? But then I love hanging out with women like this because, one, it's hard to find. I do believe it's hard to find women who are visionaries, kicking butt, doing this. I go to this like school events and they're like, oh, I bake cookies for my kids. And I'm like, oh, I just did a settlement, and so it's hard to like find women who are like in business and Latinas, that we're doing something for our community. So I love hanging out with Karen because we get crazy together, but in a good way of thinking of ways of growing and helping our community. And I enjoy the fact that you guys do have kind of like the same relationship that Jorge and myself, that you guys work together. You're a couple, you're a family looking out for other families. So I really enjoy that.
Well, thank you so much, Karen, for being here with us. We appreciate your time. And once again, you're invited for our next podcast to teach our audience about...
I'll be here.
about the law. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Throne of Wealth. Be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review to help others find the show. A special thanks to our sponsor, King of Kings Accounting Firm, dedicated to helping you build and protect wealth for generations. Until next time, take the reins of your financial future and lead with confidence.